All right, everybody, I want to talk about being bad and how for us to get good at anything, we just need to learn to be bad first. As I've been on this journey for the past really 4 years, taking on a lot of new projects, things that I haven't done before, I totally see why people don't want to do this. It's really hard to be bad at things. Welcome to Matters of the Mind, Rise to Your Worth. My name is Matt Gerlach. I am your host. I am an entrepreneur. I am a survivor of childhood trauma that's gone on to completely change my life. I've become a self-made millionaire. I've grown my business to where it made me more than $1 million a year. I'm in a big life transformation right now because I'm pursuing a career, a professional life that makes me completely happy. I am a strategic life coach, a strategic growth coach for high performers, and I work with corporations in a fractional chief revenue officer capacity, helping drive profitable growth and revenue. I'm all about growth, if you haven't understood that already about me. I think about my values a lot, and really growth is the number one value in my life. It's what I do with my professional life. It's what I do with my personal life. Honestly, if I was independently wealthy and didn't have to work at all, I guess, I'd probably sit around and read with most of my day. I would engage in conversations with people and grow. I love helping people grow. I love growing. I love being around growth-oriented people. I want to talk about something that is really important. And I think this is something that we can all benefit from, especially those of us who are like entrepreneurs or leaders or doing something magnificent, something really challenging with our careers, with our professional lives, or our personal lives. I mean, David and I are on our surrogacy journey. We are embarking on a completely unknown, uncharted territory. There are so many things that we don't know. There are so many things that we need to learn along the way. And just with anybody, I mean, if you want to start cooking, if you want to start working out, if you want to start dancing, if you want to start doing yoga, I'm going to talk a lot about yoga because that's what precipitated this conversation today. But to start anything new, we're going to be bad at the beginning. So this morning I was with a group of my friends and we had the most interesting conversation. It really sparked me to want to have this conversation with you today. We were talking about how when we start anything, we're not good at it. And we talked about how when one of my friends, she talked about yoga teacher training and just how much she struggled in her journey because she didn't feel good enough to be teaching afterwards. She didn't feel like she was capable and it made her, it stifled her. And it got me really thinking about my yoga teacher training journey, which as I really put it together this morning, I thought about this. Yoga teacher training was the first thing I did that I was walking into a room knowing that I was going to suck at. I'd been doing yoga for several years, but I didn't know anything about really what I was doing. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I knew about like the physical movements. I knew it was making me feel better, but I didn't know why. I didn't know anything about the body. I am not science-minded. I really prefer not to know that much about science, kind of bodily things. It's just not my thing. But I knew nothing about that. I knew nothing about the philosophy behind yoga. I knew nothing about like what it was trying to teach us mentally. I knew that just physically I was feeling better. So I thought about this a lot this morning, and I remember I did yoga teacher training. This was back in 2017. This was just the most life-changing experience for me. And as I've learned about yoga teacher training, first of all, yoga teacher training isn't like necessarily, we're going to take you through how to be a yoga teacher. It's really just like furthering your education on yoga. There's no like crazy certification you need to be a yoga teacher, but if you did, which you kind of do at some places, this 200-hour yoga teacher training suffices. But you don't leave this being ready to be a yoga teacher per se. You need to practice, you need to self-study, you need to learn a lot more. And you can't just like walk in as a novice and come out a perfectly amazing yoga teacher. It's a practice. And this class was very interesting for me. I was with about a dozen people. This was 8 years ago almost. So it's kind of crazy that it was so long ago. And I remember that at the end of the 200 hours, some of the students, some of my peers were upset. They felt disappointed because they didn't because they knew they weren't going to be able to walk in a room confidently and teach yoga. And I remember talking to my yoga teacher, the one who taught the class. I had two amazing yoga teachers. This just couldn't have been a better experience. One was a woman who I'm just like enamored with. I love her so much. She's been such a mentor to me. And the other one, same thing. He's a man. He's a sensitive man at that. I love him. He is like super strong and can do crazy yoga stuff. And they both taught me yoga and or taught me the depths of how to understand yoga. And at the end, we were supposed to practice teach for our class, and I couldn't do it. I was just absolutely way too embarrassed. I knew that I didn't know how to do it. I mean, it wasn't that I was not able to get up in front of a room and not be perfect. It was like I was going to have to get up in front of a room and know that at best I would be getting like a D, if not an F. But, a D is 60%, so it's better than, 0%. So it's, more than halfway there. But I was thinking about it and I couldn't do it because I didn't want to look bad in front of class. And we stood up in front of class. I think we did a little bit of yoga ourselves or something. And I remember at the end of the graduation ceremony, the two teachers, they gave me an assessment and they said something like, Matt, you're just like afraid to step in the true goodness of who you are. You're afraid to really show who you are. And I remember at the time thinking I didn't really know what to do with that. I asked a couple of my peers what they thought. They gave me their input and it was positive. It was just you need to have more confidence and you need to get yourself out there. But I didn't realize that what was really going on there was that I couldn't be bad in front of somebody else. This all just really came together for me this morning when I was talking to my friend about her experience. And it was mind-blowing because I thought I just simply lacked confidence and I thought I needed to grow the confidence, which is true. I think confidence is something that happens over time. I believe that courage comes before confidence. We have to have the courage to show up and then confidence kind of starts to build over time. But I thought it was like a courage or a confidence thing. But this morning it hit me. It was a perfectionism thing. It was that I couldn't show up in front of my peers and not be perfect because I guess deep down, I couldn't show up in front of myself and not be perfect. I don't think that truthfully, everybody in my life has always been nice. I'm doing better at this now, but up until recently, most people in my life have pretty much been nicer to me than I've been to myself. But I could not handle being less than perfect. So I was thinking about this morning and just how that paved the way. Starting, and I guess I have no admonishment for myself, going through the 200 hours, learning what I learned, accepting that feedback that I am afraid or that I don't have or that I'm not willing or able to step into the true magnificence that I suppose that other people saw in me that I didn't see in myself. Getting that feedback was the catalyst. It was getting going. My first step was getting into the room and starting the yoga teacher training and learning what I learned. And, I remember we practiced for 2 hours. I remember coming out just totally exhausted, even though I'm so much more advanced now to still practice yoga like that and hold things for 2 hours. That's no joke, And I remember sitting there meditating for 20 minutes and absolutely not being able to hold myself up. My back strength, my core strength wasn't enough to where now I can sit down for 10, 15 minutes and do pretty well. It all starts with just showing up and getting in the room. And this is why, when I'm working with my clients, we think the goal is I'm making this up, but the goal is to start a podcast. Okay. But there's a lot of things that have to happen before we start that podcast. And I encourage my clients to just start working towards it, start brainstorming, start journaling, try to get a name. Each week we might have a goal, let's start to think of the podcast name. Let's start to lay out the content. Let's just start to get going because the goal to start the podcast, there are a million things that have to happen before that. And guess what? They're not all productivity. They're not all here's a completing assignment. So much of them are in our mind. We have to get past our limiting beliefs and stop second guessing ourselves and build that confidence and courage and just willingness to step into the room. So this is all really part of the process. So I was thinking more about this, and then I realized that getting into that room, yoga teacher training, and I eventually went on to do my 300 hour, and I'm gonna tell you, like, I still wasn't confident to get up in front of people. I don't think I really did. I can't remember, the COVID kind of overlapped with this, but I remember being more comfortable. Like, I remember feeling more comfortable, and I might have gotten up and done something super fast, but I do remember that I was nowhere near ready to get up in front of my peers and teach for like 10 minutes or whatever we were expected to do. So I thought about this, and I started writing my book about 4 years ago. And yoga teacher training was a walk in the park compared to writing this book. I mean, every single day, week, I mean, I showed up to my writing coaching on Fridays, and like, she would just be like, I mean, she was so compassionate, no question about that. But it's just like, and I got so much encouragement. I mean, part of writing is getting it out, but like, I didn't know how to like write effectively. I couldn't write effectively. And like, this went on for like 3 years. I kept showing up. And I'm going to tell you, in those 3 years, I didn't like necessarily go from like a 0 to a 9. I went from like I guess I wasn't a 0, but I went from like a 2 to like a 6 maybe. And like with anything, it's a practice. We just need to keep showing up. And I guess I've been writing now for a little over 4 years, like trying to get my writing together so it's presentable, so it's something that might be accepted one day to the New York Times or another publication that I would love to have my writing featured in. And it's starting to come together. Like, I can see it. I can see it myself. It all starts with getting in the room. So I started thinking this morning more about this. Probably like the hardest thing I've had to do, which is kind of silly because this is like so stupid in hindsight. But when I started posting on Instagram a little over a year ago, to start talking about my thought leadership and just my experience and what I want to help the world with. I want to help people work through their trauma, their limiting beliefs, the things that they've been taught, the things that have kept them small. I want to help you. I want to help you learn to advocate for your own worth and go after the life that you want. And I know like what this is like. Only a few years ago, I was living a completely inauthentic life because I didn't know who I was. And the more that I went through this healing process and just continued to put one foot in front of the other, continued to grow, I was able to get to where I'm at now, which I'm so far from perfect. If you listened to last week's episode, you really heard me acknowledge this. Like, I'm showing up a little different now. I've done a lot with my life. I have a lot to celebrate. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. But like, I am so on this journey. Like, I am not that far ahead of any of you. Some of you are probably ahead of me in a lot of areas. I'm just continuing to show up and to do my best and to accept my limitations and to accept that every single step I put forward is an opportunity to grow, and I'm growing with every single one of these steps, and it feels incredible. So when I started posting these videos on Instagram, it was mortifying for me. Not so much because I was embarrassed, I guess. It was like I had so much shame because I was so bad at it. You might look at some of them from a year ago and think like, those aren't that bad. Oh my God. I had to it took me weeks, it took me months to where I was able to even get to a point where I was able to produce something that was publishable. And it wasn't like that I was embarrassed so much. I was just like, I can't believe this is taking me so much time to get a subpar video. And everyone's like, then stop saying subpar. I love the word subpar. Like, they were subpar. They weren't good. And I had to start somewhere. So, and I mentioned this, and I think this is why this was so hard for me, is it's because although I wasn't at a place where I felt embarrassed, I'm 41 years old, and not that you're immune to that, but I think the older we get, the less we care about what other people think, hopefully. And, but it still was putting it out into the world, it still was experiencing. No one said anything bad to me, really. David, I do have a lot of people in my life that are honest with me and give me honest feedback, which is something that I thrive upon. Guys, if your loved ones are afraid to give you honest feedback, it's just, none of us get better without feedback. Feedback has been one of the most important pieces of my life. And I don't necessarily listen to everything everybody says, but I mean, I listen to most of it, honestly, because most of it's right. Like, I surround myself by people who I trust, I admire. A lot of them are smarter than me. A lot of them care about me. I mean, they all care about me. A lot of them are smarter than me. A lot of them are way smarter than me. So why wouldn't I respect their feedback? I mean, and generally people are not giving you feedback on things that they don't know about. That's a whole different story. But like, think about it. You know, if I'm around you, I'm going to tell you feedback on the things that I might have some expertise on. I'm not going to give you feedback on your, something that I'm not good at, your haircut or something that I'm not a hair expert. I don't know why I gave that example, but roll with me on it. But I started putting these videos out in the world, and not only did they improve, lately, I guess I'm doing better. I've received a bunch of compliments, so that's been super nice. I'm really excited. People have told me over the past few weeks just like how much they're learning from me, which, oh my God, I mean, it just makes me want to cry that I'm able to help people. And and it, like, even that's a learning process right now. Hearing people say that, it's reminding me that, like, I've been on this journey for 8 years, but 7 years ago, the amount that I knew was a tiny bit of what I know now. It all starts somewhere. Everyone's journey begins with just one step, and the step of learning, the step of sharing what we're learning. There's somebody out there that's going to glean wisdom, that's going to glean guidance from what you and I know. And no matter where you are at in your journey, like, there's always going to be somebody who's going to learn from you. I remember my yoga teacher, she said something that really stood out to me. This is, about 8 years ago. And then she said to me, "You will touch people I can't." And she's a fantastic yoga teacher. She's super lovely. She's funny. She's beautiful. She's warm-hearted. But she's right. I am touching people that she can't. Maybe because of my appearance, maybe because of my heart, maybe because of my gender, maybe because of my sexuality, whatever it is. There are people that are going to pay attention to me that didn't pay attention to her. There's people that are going to pay attention to you that aren't going to pay attention to me. And that's what's so important for us to remember. Showing up imperfect. I'm kind of putting myself out here like this a little bit differently than I have been, and I think I'm going to continue like this. I mean, I would like to. Please give me feedback on what you think. But I just, I think about who I learned from the most. Glennon Doyle is like my North Star, if you haven't heard of her. She's an author, she's a podcaster. And on my journey, I learned so much from Brene Brown. She was really like the first reading that I did, like the first really learning. And she taught me all about shame, and that beneath what was going on, beneath my inability to give my full self, was shame. That's why I couldn't stand up in front of the yoga class. That's why I was afraid to advocate for myself professionally. That's why I was afraid personally to stand up for myself in relationships. I learned that from Brene Brown, but I was like, okay, like, what do I do with this now? And then I found Glennon Doyle, and Glennon Doyle just showed me how to do it. And it's messy, and it's not even, it's just like, we're imperfect. Like, she's out here talking about her history with drugs and alcohol and smoking cigarettes. And I saw, like, oh my God, look at this woman who is talking about all of these things. And Oprah's calling her, like, people are talking to her. She's still loved. I didn't know that I would still be loved for being imperfect for so much of my whole life. And by getting out there and showing myself, I've learned over these past several years that we all, like, the more we show ourselves, the more authentic we are, the more love that comes in. I mean, with every move that we make, everything that we say, we are pushing people away who are not meant for us, and we're attracting in people who are. And like, the first 30 years of my life, I spent so much effort trying to be who I thought people wanted me to be. And once I started allowing my real self to show, my life started to really, like, come together. Like, I lost some relationships. I let go of some relationships that weren't fitting for me anymore. And like, that worked. That was good, because it allowed the goodness in that needed to come in. And there were some times when I did have to mourn the loss of things, but it taught me to be with myself. I grew so much along this way by just embracing this imperfection of life and just being more and more and more me. So I'm sharing all of this, like, just because I'm on this journey right now. I am reinventing my professional life. I have gone into strategic life coaching. I'm working with entrepreneurs and high achievers, high performers, people who have done everything right. And on the outside, they're like, my life should be perfect, but on the inside, they still feel like something's missing. They haven't prioritized themselves because they don't know how to. They're putting everybody else. They're putting their careers. They're putting other things in front of their own well-being. And I work with them and help them prioritize themselves. I'm a big Stoic fan. Ryan Holiday he's the author of The Daily Stoic, and one thing they say that I really love, it's contemplate your mortality. And I like the word contemplate here because it's sort of open-ended. Contemplate. What does that mean for you? You can be afraid of it if you'd like to and live your life fully. You can just think about what you want your life to be like. You can think about what you want the last parts of your life, the legacy. You can think about how you want to engage in relationships today. For me, it's a little bit of all of that. I don't want to be unhappy anymore. I don't want to be not myself. I want to be spending my days like pretty fulfilled. I want to be doing what I want to do with my life. And I'm at this place where I'm trying to figure out what that looks like what the full big picture of this is. And I'm going down a lot of, I don't even want to call them wrong paths, but a lot of paths that haven't necessarily given me results, like a tangible result. But I'm learning. And these past few weeks have been probably 3 of the best weeks of my entire life. I have a fire lit under me. I am fully in transition mode right now. David and I are having a child in 11 or 12 months. So I have 11 or 12 months to really get this going because I want to have some time to be with my child. And there's so much motivation lit under me to figure this out. And this has really been 2.5 months that I've really been pushing to get this new venture, to get this new mentorship program, this movement. I want to help people live their lives to their fullest and have this most fulfilling life professionally and personally. I love working with entrepreneurs because I think that when you're an entrepreneur, when you have your own business, you have a lot of flexibility to craft your life the way you like to. I work with executives who have a lot of pressure and need to get help prioritizing themselves. And a lot of them end up learning. They want to leave their corporate careers and they have what it takes to get something started on the side, to get a business started that's going to make them happy. And I'm trying to find exactly who it is I'm working with, who exactly I'm where they are on their journey, how big I want this to be, what this model looks like. Are we meeting in person? Are we meeting on Zoom? Is this something more LA focused? Is it something that is big? Do I have dreams to one day have millions of people that I'm impacting on a daily basis? I'm not sure. I have had several ideas that I thought were oh, this will work. And then I start kind of trying to build that, getting out in the world and putting it together and realizing, oh, I thought about that wrong. I'm going to talk about more of this soon, just about the few lessons, the few really solid lessons I've learned in how to build any kind of business. I'm going to talk about that on the next episode. I think it's really important, just a few lessons that I think anybody really needs to consider, and it gets the ideas going. But I've gone down a lot of paths that haven't been exactly what I thought they would be. And something's changed over the past couple of days. Going back 8 years, this yoga teacher training, writing a book, writing articles, submitting them to magazines and newspapers and never hearing back. All of this rejection, all of this going down the wrong path, 2 steps backwards to get 1 step forward. It's all starting to become fun. Legitimately fun. I can't believe it either. I am working a lot of hours right now. And if you know my work, I talk about I have had many of the past years, I've not been working anywhere near 40 hours a week as I've scaled my last business. So it was kind of a profit machine that operated pretty systematically, to where now I'm starting something new and it's taking a lot more time, but it doesn't feel like work. I am enjoying it so much. And I'm still giving myself so much rest. I'm sleeping. I'm giving myself weekends to do things that I like to do. But it is a little bit of a hustle time right now. So I'm at peace with that. But I'm having so much fun. This is solving a puzzle. And the sooner you embrace a challenge that life is throwing at you as fun, I get to do this. I'm on this journey to figure this out. I'm this much closer to never having to work in a situation for somebody else again who I don't want to work for. That's exciting. I'm building my own life. I'm in charge of my own destiny, and it feels incredible. Thank you for listening to me today. This means a lot just to be able to share what's going on. On my website at risetoyourworth.com, I put together a 6-step guide. It's really like the past 9 years of my life distilled into this guide. It gets you to start thinking about what you want your life to be and making a plan to go after it. This has been like this is everything that I've done. And I invite you to go download it, risetoyourworth.com. And in the guide that you download, there's a link to schedule a free 45-minute call with me. I would love to talk with you, and I'll work you through the guide. Any questions that come up, I'm sure there's going to be things that this sparks, and I'm really excited to work with you on that and to give you some one-on-one time from what I've learned on my journey and what I'm still learning. So I'll leave you there today. I just want to thank you so much for listening and just for being a part of my life. I'm on the journey, and I'm just so excited to be able to share this with you. And get used to being bad. Get used to being bad at things. Every single person that tries something new is bad before they're good. We start off getting going, then we start off getting okay, and then we start off getting good. It's just the process. Thank you for listening. If you love this, please subscribe, and I would love a review. It helps me so much. See you later.